Hello, I'm Cindy Edwards from PR Media Now. One company we've been keeping a close eye on because of its economic potential is Atlas Salt out of Newfoundland. And joining us now to discuss today's important news from Atlas Salt is Atlas President Roland Howe. Hi, Roland.
Hi, Cindy. Great to talk to you again.
Great to talk to you too. I understand you are in southern Florida, so welcome to my part of the world.
Thank you.
So, Roland, there was an interesting line in today's news release that stated Atlas Salt has retained a North American firm for special corporate advisory services. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Well, as we continue to explain what we're doing here with the Great Atlantic Salt Deposit, obviously there's a lot of interest in it. And we want to make sure that if that interest transpires into something different, we want to be well aware of the options we have. And as a board, we want to make decisions which are appropriate for adding shareholder value.
Prior to today's news, it has been very quiet recently on the Atlas news front. So I am intrigued by this quote from you, Roland, in the news release. It says, "We look forward to educating investors across the globe with respect to the uniqueness of this project with more information in the near future." Now, that sounds like the pace of things is about to ramp up. Roland, am I correct in assuming that's what that means?
Just watch and see what unfolds, Cindy.
Okay, we will do that. Well, let's move on now to the ongoing drill program at Great Atlantic. You've extended the deposit half a kilometer to the northeast as expected, and also half a kilometer to the northwest. Two big step outs from the previous northernmost hole, and they've both connected. So, what is this telling you about Great Atlantic?
It's really confirming what we knew. It's a huge deposit, and being able to intersect it in these two holes, it just gives us more comfort in terms of what's actually here. So the data we're getting from these holes and the information we're getting from the overlying beds that we drill through, it's all informing the feasibility study and the mine design. So it's giving us a lot of great information, um, and it just proves to us this is a big, big deposit.
Now, Roland, you've talked about Great Atlantic as more of a salt factory than a mine when it actually goes into production. So you're now in the late stages of the feasibility study. Is it lining up with your expectations?
It is. It really hasn't changed much in the way we envisage this happening. When we say salt factory, we don't want to say easy mining, but it's very simplified. It's very straightforward. That there is no high tech mineral separation or anything required. There's no horrible tailing ponds that come out of this. You mine the salt, you crush it and screen it, and basically you can ship it. So it's a very from the environmental perspective, the footprint of this mine is going to be quite small.
Okay, sounds like a win. Now, paint a picture for us of the ideal scenario that you currently envision for Great Atlantic serving the North American salt market.
Well, given what we know about the deposit, and it's actually quite shallow, and we envisage a mine that will access the deposit through inclined ramps. Um, there's no other mine in North America doing that, and because of the depth we're at, others are at 2,000 feet deep. We're about 600 feet deep, so it makes it feasible to access with ramps. Continuous access is an advantage, and it's just something else that makes this a very advantaged asset and one that we see producing salt for many, many years into the local markets.
Well, after all you've seen over more than 3 decades in the salt business, you are Mr. Salt. So, how do you rank Great Atlantic among all the deposits and mines that you're familiar with?
Well, I continue to be impressed by this one. This one is probably the premier undeveloped salt asset in North America. It's got great geology. It's got proximity to a port. So the logistics are good, and that's so important with moving salt into the markets. So it just has all the things that create an advantaged prospect and project. So this is probably it is the best one around.
All right. Well, the key to success in the mining business is to be the low cost producer. So, what makes you think that Great Atlantic will be able to lay claim to that title?
Well, it's gonna be a new mine. It's gonna be a mine designed with the best available technology. and the best understanding of how these mines operate. Low cost production is just one of the core values that we're building into this. So being a new mine, all the other mines have been around for decades, and mines don't get any smaller; they keep getting bigger, and that creates a lot of legacy costs. You have to maintain all those underground infrastructure. We won't have that. We're going to start off with a new mine and very good control of our costs. Plus, we've got this advantage of being logistically close to our major markets.
Okay, Great Atlantic anchors a very large land package for Atlas Salt in the Bay St. George Basin, where you also have the Fischelsbrook deposit, which is known as a salt dome. Now, what's the difference between a deposit like Great Atlantic and a salt dome like Fischelsbrook?
Well, a salt dome is really generated by a salt deposit. So, a salt deposit, when it's very, very deep in the earth, there's a lot of pressure on it, and a lot of heat. And salt is a material which will flow when it's got those kind of effects on it. So, I use the analogy of a lava lamp. If you're old enough to remember those from the 60s or 70s, you've got these plumes of salt rising up from a deeply buried salt deposit. And it creates basically a tube of salt, which is structurally very stable and comes close to the surface, but it's very deep.
I think lamps have made some kind of a comeback lately. So even if people weren't around in the 60s, they would know what those were. What's unique about the Bay St. George Basin versus any other salt district in North America?
I think there's a lot of different salt. The deposit is in different forms there. So we have the massive homogeneous deposit, which is Great Atlantic salt, and then we have a salt dome like Fishel's Brook. And the whole thing about Fishel's Brook is that it's evolving into a concept of clean energy. It's an area where you can store energy, and renewable energies. They don't come all in one package. They come at times when the sun's shining or the wind's blowing. So having an opportunity to store that energy, whether it be compressed air underground or hydrogen or derivatives of hydrogen, that Fishel's Brook could anchor a great deal of that technology.
It's exciting. Okay, your news today indicated that you're making excellent progress with the spin out of the Fischelsbrook asset into a separate company. So, what's the strategy behind that, Roland?
Well, to unlock the full value of Fishel's Brook for shareholders, it's best to basically put these assets in a separate company that can be staffed up properly, bring the right management into that corporation. So we're going to set this up and develop it and finance it as a standalone project. And within very shortly we'll have this spin out, a very advantaged share distribution for Atlas shareholders. It'll be a significant bonus for the Atlas shareholders.
The big global picture. The war in Ukraine has changed the world in many fundamental ways. So, how might that impact the Great Atlantic Salt Project?
I think the ramifications of what's happening in the Ukraine is really brought into really close focus the whole security of supply situation. I mean, you've got supply of Russian energy into Europe, but it just reminds us the things that happened with COVID and the supply chains that were disrupted. People start really thinking about where they're getting the important supplies from, and salt is an important product that's required for winter maintenance. So I mean, it's just another one of the elements of life that you need to be sure you can find a safe source and secure source for. And there's nowhere more safe and secure than Newfoundland right now. It's a very welcoming mining jurisdiction, and we're close to some of the biggest markets for highway de-icing salt. So it's really it's affecting many things, but a lot of the things that it affects will make it better for us, I believe. And deep sea rates as well, with the price of oil the way it's going, they're not going to change anytime soon. So that's putting pressure on people who are trying to import from North Africa and Chile into the east coast of North America. Inflationary surges, they affect labor costs. They affect a lot of costs that are more acute with older mines. So certainly it disproportionately affects some of those older, aging North American mines.
Roland Howe, president of Atlas Salt, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You can go to atlassalt.com for more information. Have a great day, everyone.